At exactly 9:47 a.m. on her 50th birthday, they called her into the conference room with a cake and a pink slip. But what they didn't know was that over-the-hill woman would build a $50 million empire and prove that some fires burn brightest after 50. Welcome to Still Human. Before we begin this powerful story of resilience and revenge served cold, tell me in the comments from which city you're watching today. And if you believe that 50 is just the beginning, hit that subscribe button. The conference room smelled like vanilla and betrayal. Sarah Chen stood in the doorway, staring at the birthday cake that would end her career. 15 years at Innovate Tech, condensed into blue frosting and a termination letter hidden behind paper plates. "Surprise!" her colleagues called out, their voices hollow as graves. Her manager David, barely 32, fidgeted with his phone like a child with a loaded gun. The HR director Monica sat with that practiced smile she'd perfected for firing people. The cake read, "Happy 50th, Sarah," in letters that might as well have spelled goodbye. "The industry is changing rapidly," David began, his rehearsed speech flowing like poison. "We need fresh blood, new energy, digital natives who understand the market." Sarah sat down slowly. She'd built their marketing department from nothing. She'd launched campaigns that put them on the map. She'd mentored half the people in this room. None of that mattered now. "It's nothing personal," Monica chimed in. "It's just business." Sarah stared at the envelope sliding across the table toward her. Inside was 6 months' severance and the legal language that would erase 15 years of her life. The crime? Turning 50. "Is there anything specific about my performance?" Sarah asked. David's eyes darted away. "Your work has been adequate, but we need to think about the future." The future? Sarah almost laughed. She'd created their TikTok strategy, their influencer program. The campaign that increased market share by 30% last quarter was sitting on David's desk with his name on it. "When I started here, I was 35, Sarah said quietly. "You told me I was perfect because I was experienced, but young enough to grow. Now you're saying I'm too old to grow anymore." Silence filled the room like smoke from a fire nobody wanted to acknowledge. Sarah signed the papers with the same steady hand that had built a department generating millions in revenue. As the pen moved across the page, she thought about the 20-year-old intern who'd asked her last week how to build a successful career. Apparently, she'd forgotten to mention the expiration date. "The cake looks lovely." She walked to her office to pack 15 years into a cardboard box. Awards, photos, a stress ball shaped like a brain. Jessica, the young woman she'd been mentoring, appeared with coffee and confusion. "Sarah, what happened?" "I've been let go." Jessica's mouth fell open. "That's insane. You created half our strategies. This is illegal." "Proving it is harder than you think," Sarah replied, sealing the box. They covered their bases. Strategic restructuring, market demands, all perfectly legal ways to fire someone for being 50. In the elevator, Sarah caught her reflection in the polished steel, gray threading through dark hair, lines that spoke of long hours and difficult decisions. When had experience become the enemy? Her phone buzzed. "Happy birthday, Mom. Can't wait to hear about your day." Sarah typed back, "It's been interesting. I'll call tonight." She didn't mention she was unemployed. She didn't mention she was crying in a parking garage for the first time in years. She didn't mention that at 50, She felt discarded by a world that had moved on without her. But as she sat there, something shifted. Anger transformed into something harder, more focused. They thought 50 was over the hill. They thought she was done. Sarah wiped her eyes and started her car. She had work to do. The coffee shop where she'd had her first interview 30 years ago still smelled like possibility. Maria, now running the family business, set down coffee and sympathy. Rough day? I just got fired. Those tech company bastards? Their loss. Maria leaned closer. My grandmother always said, sometimes you have to get pushed off the cliff to remember you can fly. For 3 hours, Sarah filled 16 pages with ideas that had been building inside her for years. Every frustration at Innovate Tech, every innovation they'd called too risky, every talented person who'd left for better opportunities. What if she didn't have to fit into someone else's narrow vision anymore? She drove home with purpose she hadn't felt in years. That night, over good wine she'd been saving for a special occasion, she called Emma. Mom, how was your birthday? Em, how would you feel about your old mom starting her own company? Are you serious? Dead serious. Mom, that's incredible. You're not old. 50 is nothing. The next morning, Sarah woke at 5 a.m. because she wanted to, not because she had to. She had calls to make and a future to build. Rachel, it's Sarah Chen. I have a proposition for you. Her first call was to Innovate Tech's biggest client, the sustainable fashion CEO who'd always seemed frustrated by the agency's cookie-cutter approach. Within a week, Sarah had 3. David saw the article. So did Monica. So did Innovate Tech's board, watching their stock price slide as clients followed Sarah out the door. The phone call came on a Tuesday. Sarah, it's David. I was wondering if we could talk. Of course, Sarah said pleasantly. Are you looking for consulting services? I should mention our rates have gone up. Success tends to do that. Actually, would you consider coming back? The board realizes we made a mistake. Sarah leaned back in her ergonomic chair, looking out at the city's skyline. Her company occupied the entire 15th floor. She employed 32 people. Last month's revenue exceeded her old annual salary. That's flattering, David, but I'm not available. We could offer executive-level, full autonomy. I've discovered something about being 50, Sarah interrupted. I'm old enough to know what I'm worth and young enough to demand it. What I'm worth is more than working for people who think experience is a liability. She hung up and went back to work. There was a presentation for a client who valued her experience, a team meeting with people who respected her knowledge, and a future with no expiration date. That evening, passing her reflection in the office doors, Sarah saw something new. 52 now, with more gray and deeper lines, but also with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. Her phone buzzed. Saw the Forbes article. So proud, Mom. You're proving 50 really is just the beginning. Sarah typed back, some fires do burn brightest after 50. 6 months later, another call came. This time, the CEO himself. Miss Chen, we'd like to discuss a partnership, not employment, partnership. We're struggling where your company excels. The partnership announcement made industry news. Innovate Tech partners with Chen Strategies in groundbreaking age-inclusive deal. Sarah framed the article and hung it next to her Forbes feature. Not for validation, but to remind everyone who walked through her door that age wasn't a barrier to success. It was fuel for it. The day the partnership was announced, a package arrived with no return address. Inside, a card reading, "Congratulations on proving them wrong," and a single birthday candle. Sarah lit the candle at her desk. She didn't make a wish. Everything she'd wished for was already here. Respect, success, and the knowledge that her best years weren't behind her. They were happening right now. At 54, sitting in the corner office of the company she'd built from nothing, Sarah understood what her grandmother had tried to tell her. Youth is wasted on the young, but wisdom? Wisdom is the gift of age, and it's worth every year it takes to earn it. The candle burned steadily, casting warm light over everything she'd built. Sarah Chen, the woman they'd called too old at 50, was just getting started. So now I ask you, have you ever been told you were too old for something? Share your story in the comments, because here at the Human Stories, we believe some of life's greatest achievements happen after 50. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, subscribe and help us share stories of those who prove age is just a number. We'll see you in the next one.